I think one thing just as a highlight that I think people don't maybe notice is that you did the apprenticeship model, which is
I
really
worked
powerful.
for Robert for 7 years.
Yeah, and you worked for Tucker, and you worked for, and it's like, not that you just went and had access, you went and worked for them. You actually had to do real work, right? And build up the knowledge and skill set so that finally, like Leonardo or any of these like greats, like you went apprentice and then you could go, master the craft and then go to your own craft.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way I thought it was, is like, okay, Robert's paying me this, it was generous, but it was, not like he would have to ask me, he was like, you need to invoice me. Like, I was willing to do it for free. I mean, he'd be like, you haven't invoiced me in a while. How many hours have you worked? And then I have to like make up how many hours I've worked because I wasn't even keeping track of it. But I saw it as like, okay, all these powerful people like pay Robert like thousands of dollars to be able to ask him advice. And now I get to ask him advice. That's the trade. Do you know what I mean? So like, I remember I was like, Robert, like, how do you make a book? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like, how does a book work?
Well, and you're asking a famous author who already knows the answer.
Right. And so he showed me, not only as part of the job, but then specifically asking questions, he like showed me how to make a book. So when I sold my first book, it wasn't just that I had a okay idea for a book. It was like, a lot of people sell books, but they have no idea how to make a book. Like, right now you could get a $3 million contract for a book because you have the most brilliant idea ever. And then they'd be like, okay, give us a book in a year. That's your job. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like people, like let's say Y Combinator invests in your company or Founders Fund gives you $1 million. They're not like, and then let us show you how to make this start. It's like, that's your fucking problem.
That's so amazing. I never thought that you realized you did the apprenticeship thing. How did you choose to drop out of school?
So I also had another internship at a talent agency in Hollywood, sort of all at the same time. These were all kind of connected, but they had just signed a big band through some work that I'd done. Like I'd laid out the plan. They signed the band Linkin Park.
The small band Linkin Park.
No, they were a big band. They were a very big band at the time. They were like, they stole them away from another management agency.
And you helped do that?
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
Because I wrote like what was the digital plan for this group, which had been why they signed. So I'd been lucky enough to work on this thing, and then I was supposed to go back to school, and my boss was like, what if you didn't go back to school? And then almost the same day or the next day, Robert asked if I would be his research assistant. So Robert's thing didn't require me dropping out of school in any way. And the Hollywood thing was kind of what I wanted to do, but not really. But I just I did the math and I was like, if I was going to graduate in 3 years, or I could graduate in 4 years with 2 majors. And I was thinking, okay, if I graduated in a year or 2 years, and on graduation day I had these 2 offers, would I consider college a success? And if the answer was yes, then I should take the offers then. If the offer was no, I should stay in school.
That's really interesting. The 2 things from this point, I think one thing I just want to like reiterate mostly for myself is that I think nowadays we're actually at a horrible stage where we all want shortcuts.
Yeah.
We all want like, all right, how do I get a book that's a bestseller this week? How do I make a business that's making $1 million and I can travel this week? And I think one of the reminders that you just really planted on my seat, and I keep thinking about, there's no shortcut. Like there are better blueprints to get results, but ultimately you have to put in the work. Well, and you put in 10 years of work?
Dropping out shaved like some time. Like if I'd spent another 2 years, I would have been 2 years. I still feel like I would have been an author. Like but
just 2 years later.
So there are shortcuts in that sense. Like, do you know Shane Snow?
Yeah.
So he calls them smart cuts. I like that, right? Like, you think to be, let's go to Donald Trump again in a non-controversial way. You think to become president, you have to like
go
be
to an
mayor. Yeah, so you have to go to good school. You have to do other stuff. Then you have to be a lawyer. Then you run for mayor. Then you became
Governor,
state senator. And then it takes like 4. You think you have to be Hillary Clinton to be president, and actually you don't. You just have to figure out. There's multiple ways to get there. Yeah.
But it still took a lot of work.
Yes, a lot of work. Yes, definitely. But you don't have to do it the way that everyone else does it.
I just want be smart. Be smart about the decision you make, but also put in the work, right?
Yeah,
and I think people don't want to put in the work, or they're like, why don't I have it right now? And I'm like, well, how much have you worked on it? Not that much.
So when I was maybe like 23, maybe younger, I wrote an article about Stoicism online that got really popular. And I got an offer from a really small publisher. Actually, they're based in Austin. They wanted to know if I wanted to turn it into a book, and of course I wanted to turn it into a book. That was that was the only reason I was doing any of this. And I remember I talked to Robert, and he was like, I don't think you should do it. He was like, I don't think he basically said you're not ready to do it and it won't be that good if you do it.
Ooh.
And he was like, you're getting better every day and you're learning more every day and you're having more life experiences every day. The book will be better in a few years. And so I had to, I mean, I didn't have to, but I said no. And that book didn't come out until I was like 27. So that was a shitty thing to do, but an awesome thing to do at the same. Like, it was unpleasant to do, and I even at the time thought it was kind of crazy to do, but it was totally right. It was better to put in the time.
So coming back to where you started the whole like leaving college and all this, what was the vision for all this? Like, what was your like? And I ask because that's something I've just been thinking a lot about, and I think more people need visions, right? And including myself, where it's like, I want this, and this is what I expect.
I don't know if I had a vision. I think it was more like I'm more a proponent of like the vague sense, like what do you kind of want your life to look like? Like, what do you want to be around? What do you want to be doing? Versus like, on March 15th, 2020, I will be walking on the moon. You know, like that's it, you know, like I think those really concrete, specific visions I think are mostly crazy. And it just was it Jason Terry who like tattooed on his arm like 2011 NBA champions at like the beginning of the season? That's fucking insane.
Did they win?
Yeah, they did. The Mavericks won that year. That's only not stupid because it did work out.
But you don't think that level of conviction or clarity about what you want helps? But I guess how did you
correlation and causation? You have no idea, you know.
Sure.
So I would.
What did you do? What were you at that time? What were you thinking?
Well, I think I knew that I wanted to like be around people who were doing stuff that like making like I wanted to be like part of deals, and I wanted to like be around. I knew I wanted to be an author, and I kind of thought that being around authors would like show me how to get there.
And it did.
Yeah. So it was a vague sense versus a vision.
I mean, and then do you have a sense now of what the future looks like for you, or what you want it to look like?
I mean, that's actually a weird thing I think about a lot, because like I would kind of like it just to look like this. Like it's not that I don't want to do anything, but like to me it's more like, how can I keep doing it? That's a hard thing.
What do you mean?
Well, like writing's a career you can do till you're 80. How many people actually do it till they're 80? Like a lot of people stop being relevant, or they stop being that good. How can I have the life that I want, doing the things that I want, and doing as few things that I don't want? That's my vague vision, as opposed to I want to be the world's most famous author and have sold 80 million books.
How do you stay relevant and sharp?
I think you have to approach it project by project. I think you have to challenge yourself. You have to take risks. I think you have to be open. You have to be open to doing those things, and then I also think you have to. The way I see it is that, like, okay, I'm turning 30 this year, and I've written 6 books. Each book I'm getting better because I've done, like, my next book, I'll have written 7 books, you know, and then when I'm starting my 8th book, I'll have written 7 books, right? So I guess what I mean is that the more, I think you have to keep doing it. You have to keep practicing. Do you know what I mean?
Your craft. Well, it's like the podcast and videos. Like my first one was literally me in my shirtless bedroom. I mean, if you ever watching my podcast was me, literally, it was holding this microphone like this. And it would be like this really crappy audio. And now I'm like worried about geese because of background noise. We have 3 cameras. And
you know all about microphones and stuff.
I have a lot of fucking microphones, dude.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So with Daily Stoic, it came out. So you read 1 page a day. That's the idea of the book. And I started noticing like people taking pictures of it and putting it on Instagram, and not every page says the Daily Stoic on it, because like it was designed for reading, not for like being taken pictures on. So it occurred to me that I never thought about that until like it on my next book. I now have a deeper understanding of the whole package.
So like building up the asset.
And so hopefully the next book will be designed better.
This is an Ian Schoen question from Tropical MBA. And he said it to me, now it's one of my favorite ones. So what do you think your 18-year-old self would think of you now?
So
Have you thought of that?
No offense to him, I think that's a dumb fucking question.
Great.
Right? So I wrote a piece about this a long time ago because I've always hated that question. Like people go like, if the 15-year-old version of me saw this, they'd kick my ass or whatever.
Okay.
It's like, do you care? Like if an 18-year-old walked up here and started telling you about the world, would you be like, oh, we should listen to this guy? Like, I don't give a shit about the 18-year-old version of me's opinion because I know more than that person. Like, I know a lot more about the world than that person. I've done a lot more than that person. I know all the dumb things that that person thinks.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't give a shit about his opinion.
Do you think your 18-year-old self would hate your 30-year-old self too?
Um,
He's gonna fucking say he thinks he knows everything, but he actually doesn't know everything.
I don't know. No, I would like to think that the 18-year-old version of me would actually respect what I've done and who I am. But I think it's a weird, look, the reason you say that is that you think that the teenage you has certain idealism and purity to them that maybe the older version of you doesn't have because you're more willing to settle or compromise. But I don't necessarily actually think those are bad things. So I think part of the reason an 18-year-old, like the opinions that I had at 18 years old about things that I had no firsthand experience with,
Yeah.
to me aren't more valid because I didn't have that experience. They're invalid because I was an outsider and I didn't know anything. And now that I've experienced things and met people, and I think my opinions are better. Hopefully, ideally, your opinion should be better.
Yeah.
That the clueless teenage version of yourself should not be able to judge.
I think one thing I noticed is that like it's weird when you start noticing your opinions are changing.
Yeah, of course.
Like I remember I used to think, this is kind of a weird ass one. I used to think that the man was the king of the household.
Okay.
And like the man just gets served.
Yeah.
This is I grew up traditional. My mom would cook dinner, and my dad goes to work. And I remember thinking as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't know if that has to be the case, or like that
Sure.
the wife has to take a last name. And maybe I'm only doing like women.
Right. Yeah.
But now I'm like, I mean, if they have a really good last name, I don't know if they should change it.
Well, the 18-year-old version of me would probably have an opinion about whether a woman should take or not take a man's last name, and the 30-year-old version of me, I think this is both true with age, and I think society has made some improvements in this regard. The 30-year-old version of me doesn't fucking care. Do you know what I mean? Like the 30-year-old version of me is like, you should make whatever decision you want to make.
Yeah.
And okay, I'll give you an example. So I was actually at where I went to college a few weeks ago. I was just using the library, and I wanted to hang out there. And so I was looking through the college newspaper, the one that I used to write for, the one that I wrote, the article that launched my whole career, right? And there was an article, it was like a point counterpoint, like where they'll do like, it'll be like pro-abortion, anti-abortion.
Yeah. And
someone will have to pick a side, and then you argue one side, they argue the other. And the point counterpoint was whether cover songs are good or not. And it was like, so it went to exactly what we're talking about right now, where it's just like, one of the things about being in college is having a lot of dumb opinions about things that don't fucking matter and thinking that it matters. Do you know what, I was laughing, and I had a lot of empathy for like the guy that probably sat up in his dorm room and was like, yeah, I'm really upset about cover songs. Like, I really have a strong opinion about this. Whereas the 30-year-old version of me is like, this isn't something you can have an opinion about. They either exist or they don't, right?
Yeah.
Like people are going to make cover songs because they make money and fans like them. It's not a thing to have an opinion about. Your opinion doesn't affect whether this exists.
Let him have a cover song.
Hi, y'all. I'm Noah's mom. If you like what you're seeing, please give this video a share and leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll spank you. By the way, check out my playlist with Ryan Holiday for more goodies. Adios!